Now you are talking of when you were much younger, you were a teenager, and things that have been happening. And today, does it continue to happen? When is it going to change? See, because now you look at maybe little children that are being born today, you need to tell them your story. Now they look around, okay, some things have changed, but the change is really is so small compared to what is actually is expected. So when you put all this in context, what do you feel? What do you feel about your being America in this society where you were born and you live?
Well, it has definitely changed since the time of my youth. There's no question it has changed. The problem that we're seeing now with, I'm sure you're familiar with far right wing of the Republican Party. They're just open about the fact of what type of country and what type of leadership they have. The sad events in Buffalo are a direct result of the propaganda that's fed to people who are maybe not don't have the ability to discern the information and not take it incorrectly. Whereas some people hear propaganda and they act on it because they truly believe what they are being instructed mentally to think. And this individual was 18 years old. You and I both know at 18 years old, you haven't lived long enough to really understand the concepts of life. So to make the decision to shoot and kill 10 people and injure several others is not something you would come to at 18 years old unless you were indoctrinated through propaganda to believe in a supremacist thought of oppression toward other people. And unfortunately for Black people in the United States, that's not going to change. What is happening is as you get more and more Black people into the middle class, they're less likely to want to carry on the struggle because their lives have improved. And when you ask me about, do I think things are going to change dramatically over the next decade? I don't think so. I think what you're going to see is a continuation of the restrictions of voting in the United States, methods to control access to income, access to business ownership, access to world leadership. Um, I take it back. I don't know if you're familiar with Andrew Young, who was the ambassador to the UN, but he gave a speech around 1978 when he talked about after World War II and Winston Churchill drawing the boundary lines for all the countries in Africa. And part of that rationale was to keep all the countries in Africa in conflict. And I guess the best example would be Nigeria. Nigeria should have been allowed to break up into probably 3 different countries, but yet the boundary lines drew it into one country where it's always in turmoil. And I use Nigeria as an example of what I'm saying about things not changing. I don't have to control you by pointing a gun at your head if I can control the way that you think. And Nigeria, as you're probably aware of, at one time, I think for 30 years, was the 4th largest oil exporter in the world. It is a rich nation, but it's not reflected in the lives of the average Nigerian. And as you relate it to America, it's the same. There are breakthroughs in the larger Black middle class, but yet again, probably 30% of the Black population in the United States lives in poverty. And I don't see a change in that anytime soon.
All right. Now, I found your conversation very interesting for the larger diaspora community. It is very, very important. They are not going to keep the people in chain anymore, but they still manage to keep them in psychological chain. If that is the new frontier of the war, because actually the war that has been fought against African people, I usually say in most of the cases that the biggest of it has been taking place in the mind. If we manage to have a semblance of reality as that, do you think we have the possibility of liberating ourselves because we are no longer in chain? I mean, we're no longer physically in chain, but we are mentally in chain. Do you think we can do something about it? I mean, African global, African in Africa, and African in the diaspora?
Well, the problem becomes this. As people excel and their lives get better, they lose the energy and lust for battle. And I don't know it. I see it in the United States so often that in the cities here, particularly against the right wing Republicans in this country, is they will select certain black people, black leaders in their groups, and allow them to earn great money, have great exposure, national representation. And if you can siphon off a section of the black population to follow that lead, and then another section, the middle class section, is has some level of frustration, but overall are comfortable with the lives that they lead. They're not inclined to fight the war, to fight the battles that are necessary to change the mind of the rank and file that life can get better for the entire black population. Uh, One thing I've heard recently is people upset in Africa and the United States about the emergence of China throughout Africa. But the difference that China did, other than what the United States and Britain did, they didn't come in and kill the leaders. They didn't come in and kill the leaders. They didn't limit their access to riches in the country and being able to absorb them themselves. I'm talking about the people of Africa. And when you ask the question, can we change the mindset of the general population to work together to get a better outcome? Anything's possible. But unfortunately, I just think you're going to need a charismatic leader and acceptance throughout the black world that there has to be a united front for the uplifting of the entire group of people. And we struggle in the United States with it. I don't know the depth in Africa, in the continent of Africa, but in the United States, we truly struggle with it because people will simply take the medicine of a better life over change.
I think that the only way we are going to survive this is when we fight on the same front. But by fight now, I'm not really talking of physical fight, even though sometimes that cannot actually be avoided. Because if you look at many other people that have been able to build themselves, they have done it at any cost necessary. We must be prepared to do that. But the one that we're actually talking about now is about the sensitization of the people. Right there in the United States was a man who grew up. I'm talking of Marcus Garvey, who took the people and told them, let's do this. He was a man. Of course, he didn't do it alone. Without the people that stood by him, I don't know of any man like him in the history that we can ever reflect on about African diaspora. So is it that we are lacking the men with charisma, because you use the word charisma today, or will people just feel it is not necessary to organize themselves? Maybe they're just buying the alternative of, okay, nobody is putting a chain on your hand now, so there is no need. Just take it. Do you think it's a lack of people, or is just because we are having an alternative to freedom?
Well, again, I use Atlanta as an example. You had forerunners to Dr. Martin Luther King in the fashion of W.E. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, who talked about the elevation of black people in the country. They had two different views, but both of them were helpful. Marcus Garvey came along in between both of them, and his movement was very successful because it uplifted the mental state of black people. I think that's where Malcolm X had success, in that he helped black people frame their mindset differently. And Dr. King came in with the mindset of, if we really want to change things within the United States and ultimately the world, you have to learn how to operate in the system. I think the difference, what I speak of, is Dr. King, who turned down millions of dollars, millions, because he was true to the movement. I don't know if you have a leader now that has the strength to turn away from the money, the fame, and the inclusion. Dr. King wasn't about that. He was about the movement. I remember him winning the Nobel Peace Prize. He only took $2,000. He gave all the other money to his organization here in Atlanta.